Hari Om. Start the prayer. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Samsakhanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. So we're looking at the world is nothing but Brahman. So because everything is Brahman, and Brahman means that which is infiniteness, and infiniteness cannot undergo any modifications by definition because it's infinite. Only finite things undergo modification. At the same time, scripture says that he became many. So it appears to be a transformation, but it's transformationless transformation. And scripture itself gives you an example that it is just as the gold becoming into many. Gold doesn't really become into many. Gold appears now as though many. So gold is as though a transformationless transformation to appear as different varieties of names and forms. So brilliant example that scripture itself provides, that one is either gold becoming into many ornaments or mud becoming into the varieties of the pots and so on, vessels, and the iron becoming into different types of tools. So each one is a transformationless transformation, it appearing as that, but in essence Brahman is not transforming, gold is not transforming into something else, it remains as a gold only, Brahman remains as the gold, Brahman only, not gold, Brahman only. So everything is only Brahman but appears for different. Why appearance? Because there is a demand for that appearance. That appearance is dictated by karma, by the vasanas. All that is implied. But this is only apparent, therefore we call it a maya. It appears to be there but not really there. But if the appearance is taken as a real, then it becomes a Brahma. So it's appearing like a snake because of the improper, the lights and so on. There is some information, but it is not complete information. There is an object there, that is there is there. That part is true, but only part not true is it is a snake instead of a rope. So once I realize it, it's not a snake, this is a snake is replaced by there is a rope. And therefore same way this is object. Now I understand this is nothing but Brahman. World is there, but world is only superficial. What is there is only Brahman. This knowledge cannot be gained through any perceptual process because Brahman cannot be perceived. So I had to use something beyond the perception and logic. Therefore all other the tangible pramanas are not valid to know the Brahman. Only pramana or a means of knowledge is scripture becomes a problem, pramana, to indicate that this is what you see. So it's not a direct knowledge of the object now, direct knowledge of the Brahman, therefore it's not an objective knowledge. So self-realization or knowledge of self-knowledge is not an objective knowledge, because self-subject, I cannot become an object for me to know, or Brahman cannot be an object. So it's aprameyam, that means not an object for knowledge. Then how am I going to know? It is something that you have to recognize. It's a recognition process of what it is and what you see, and because of what you see, all that is because of so it is because of Brahman only. So it is cognitively one has to understand by removing all that superficial knowledge and look carefully, and it gets revealed itself. And that is what is being discussed now, the nature of Brahman. It started with the Jiva is Brahman, and now we're talking about the world is Brahman. So Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara is also Brahman, and what is there is essentially Brahman only. That's being now taken up in the next few slokas, emphasizing and summarizing the whole Vedanta up to this point. Atah param brahma sadadadvitiyam. This is sloka 239. Atah param brahma sadadadvitiyam vishuddha vijnana ghanam niranjanam prashantamadhyanta vihinamakriyam nirantarananda rasaswarupam. Atah param brahma sadadadvitiyam vishuddha vijnana ghanam niranjanam prashantamadhyanta vihinamakriyam nirantarananda rasaswarupam. So ataha, therefore, having established that Jivatma is essence of Jivatma is nothing but this pure consciousness, and that is unchanging entity in all the changing things, and about the world, the unchanging entity in all the changing things is Brahman. So having established or having understood that ataha, the whole universe, is world is nothing but Brahman, and Param Brahma, that Brahman which is essentially now without any distinctions and differentiations, that Supreme Brahman, Sat Advitiyam, Sadadadvitiyam, and it is of the nature of Sat, expressing itself in the form of the Sat in the Jagat, and Chit and Sat in the Jivas, and Sat, Chit and Ananda in the minds that are contemplative and quietened by the process of understanding. And therefore Sat, Chit, Ananda are getting complete reflections will come only when the equipment reflecting is possible. Just as we said, the objects that were looking white is reflecting all the beams that are falling on it. So therefore white light falling and white light is coming back to me, therefore the object is white. If object absorbs one and only emits other, depending upon the quality of the object, depending upon its package capacity of the object, it looks red to me if the red color is not absorbed, but every other color is absorbed. So object looks red to me. That's what the theory of colors is. Same way, in the whole universe, I am looking at it, only the Sat aspect is getting reflected in the inert object. Therefore, I say there is an object. So existence is expressed in the form of an object. So existence is that which pervades every object, and it's not an attribute of the object. Now that it's not a product of the object, but it because of which the object exists, because from which it came, by which it sustained, into which it goes back. Therefore that is the essential material, and it's not a material type of material as the inert, it is the essential thing that pervades that, which lends its existence to the object. Without that, I cannot say the object exists. Therefore, it is Sat Swarupam, and that is the fundamental, the knowledge that's in the Sadvidya of the whole chapter of 6th chapter of the Chandogya is emphasizing that aspect of it. And it is Advitiyam. It is Advitiyam means it's non-dual. Therefore, there is no Sajati, Vijati, Swagata Vedas in that. There are no internal differences of any kind, and that comes from the scriptural statement Sadeva Soumya Idamagramasid Ekameva Advitiyam. Ekam Eva Advitiyam. So Advitiyam word is also being used, and that's exactly what here is. It says Ataha Param Brahma Sat Advitiyam. It is non-dual. That means there are no something else to compare with or compare it with. There are no internal differences. Why internal differences? Because it's infinite. Infinite cannot have finite things inside. So infinite is infinite, and therefore it cannot have any individual parts in that. Although some of the acharyas say it has internal differences, which he calls it the jivas and jagat, forming the internal differences within that are called Visheshanas of the Brahman, and that's what's called Visishta Advaita. But from the point of Advaita, logically also, no difference of any kind can be found in that. It is Advitiyam. Vishuddham. Vishuddham is where it says there is nothing of that, because there is only one of a kind, and therefore there are no internal also that which makes it the Asuddham, and it is Visuddham. This is the Visheshena Suddham. Because of the purity is not by polishing it, purity is because of its intrinsic nature, because Anantatvam, because Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. When it is Anantam, therefore it is infinite, there can be nothing other than itself, and any impurity is only a superficial deposition on top of it. Therefore we call it is impure, which can be removed. But Brahman being infinite, there is nothing other than Brahman in the universe, therefore it's one of a kind, and there is second kind to superimpose on it, therefore it is Visuddham. And if there is a second kind, it is only a superficial appearance only, but not real. So Vijnana Ghanam, it's of the nature of pure consciousness. Vijnanam here is, it is a knowledge and Chaitanya Swarupam. So when we look at the epistemology is science of the knowledge. The knowledge is not defined and cannot be defined also. If you go to the Google and ask for knowledge, the meaning of knowledge, it will only define knowledge of XYZ, knowledge of chemistry, knowledge of physics, knowledge of biology, knowledge of some objective knowledge only they define, because without any qualification, there is no way I can define knowledge. So knowledge by itself cannot be defined, and because Vedanta also says it is of the nature of pure knowledge and it is undefinable, because any definition is only for an object, and it's not an object, it is infinite. We can only say it is not this, not this, not this, because by exclusive process I can infer what exactly is that, because it doesn't come under the categories that I am familiar with. That's what not this implies. All the nama rupas are rejected, all the attributes are rejected, because attributes belong to only to a finite entities, not to the infinite entities. Therefore he is nirgunaha, nirvikaraha, and that has to be understood. But how am I going to know? That is your own self, that is the very subject. So all you have to do is remove the misconceptions about yourself and the world, and the knowledge will be ever shining itself. So it's called Vijnana Ghanam, means undifferentiated pure consciousness, even if it doesn't express itself in the inert objects. Their inert object, the problem is not the consciousness problem, right? Not the problem with the Brahman. Brahman is still Satchidanandam, but medium of reflection is not capable to reflect the consciousness, and therefore it absorbs consciousness also, as though just like when all the lights are out, all the seven colors of the white are absorbed, it becomes a black body. If all are reflected, it becomes a white body. If only partially reflected, then you get different colors also. So it is exactly similar way. All are not reflected, only reflected is the Sat Swarupam only reflected. Therefore we say the world is. So Visuddha Vijnana Ghanam Niranjanam. Niranjanam is essentially without any having anjanam. So it's impurity, or here the Bhagavan, the Chandrasekhara Bharati defines as it is ajnana sparsarahitam. It has no contact with the ignorance. That means even ignorance is not there. So remember we discussed about the locus of ignorance. Locus of ignorance we said is Brahman, because everything has to be Brahman only, because it cannot be away from Brahman. So on principle the ignorance locus is also Brahman. But at the same time, Brahman doesn't have ignorance. Therefore, is untouched by it. And that's exactly where it says, Maya tadabidam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina mastani sarva bhutani nachaham teshu avastitaha. Their problems do not affect me, because all beings are nothing but the whole world is nothing but being, and I pervade everything. So I am pervading their ajnana also. No, Ishvara is not ajnani, because even though the ajnanam belongs to its individual level, even though ajnanam manifests in terms of the total karma as a maya, but I am untouched by maya also. That's why Mayavi. Maya means I am only wielder of a maya, but from point of Ishvara, he is Sarvajna and Sarvavit. Explain those two words. Sarvajnaha means he knows he is a Brahman, and Sarvavit also, that means there he knows all other Apara Vidya also, all subjects also he knows. That means he knows chemistry, he knows biology, he knows every subject also, because they are in the part of the creation, and he himself all those subjects too. So he is the author of everything too, and that is essentially from the Ishvara point. But therefore here the Ajnanam also is not the locus of that, only for transactional purposes. When we are talking about the creation and the jiva and I want realization and the moksha, all that is only applicable only for the transactional. So even Ajnanam is also in the Maya only, within Maya or within the transactional or Vyavaharika Satyam. There is no Ajnanam from the Paramarthika point, even though for the argument's sake we say that Brahman is the locus of the avidya. So it is a locus, but because ontologically they are different degrees of order, so the statement is, you cannot say ring is in the gold. The gold point, there is no ring also. But we say the ring, gold became a ring. But at the same time, gold never becomes a ring. So both statements are correct, only because the order of reality of the gold is different from the order of reality of the ring. Ring is of the royal order of reality. You may say, oh, this is also real. It's also real, but not absolutely real, because ring can become a bangle. There's a destructive transformation, whereas the gold remains as the vivarta. It remains as a gold when it forms in the form of a ring or in the form of a bangle. So the order of reality called ontological status of the gold is different from ontological status of the ring, and that's exactly what mean by mithya. And all other things is satyam. Satyam means that which remains same everywhere, therefore doesn't undergo any change, and that can only be infinite, and infinite is the Brahman. Brahman itself meaning the infinite, and the word the Brahman itself is coined because the Brahman means big. So Brihad Dhatu, it means a very big. So big is an adjective and it qualifies a noun. So we say big mosquito. When you say big mosquito means we have a mosquito, a normal mosquito, and compared to normal, it's very big mosquito. So now big is also adjective qualifies the noun. That's how we learn in English. But here the noun is also getting qualified by, noun also qualifies the bigness, that is how big the big is depends upon the noun. So the bigness of a mosquito, when you say big mosquito versus different from big elephant, and therefore we have now upgraded the bigness of the bigness word to normal size of the elephant. From that we say it's a big elephant. Now big mountain is completely different now. A scale is different. So even the big is also getting modified or qualified by the noun it qualifies. Now we have a bigness which is infinitely big without any qualifications, so unqualifiedly big, and therefore that is what is called made the adjective into noun form, and that is the Brahman. And therefore Brahman is infiniteness, but infiniteness of what? Satyam Jnanam Anantam. It is of the nature of the pure existence. It's not infinite nothing. It's infinite existence, and that which is Sat Padartham, and that which is the Jnana Swarupam of the nature of Vijnana Ghanam or pure consciousness, and that is Anantam. Therefore this is a Swarupa Lakshana of the Brahman itself. And Niranjanam Prasantam Adyanta Vihinam. Prashantam is supreme peace. Shantam Shivam Advaitam Chaturtam Manyante Sa Atma Savjneya. In the seventh mantra of the Mandukya Karika, it defines the subject I am. I am is essentially Adresyam, Agrahyam, Agotram, Avarnam from the point of Brahman. Also Adrusyam, it cannot be seen, that which Papanchopashavam, and it is essentially the Advaitam, Shantam, Shivam, Advaitam, Chaturtham Manyante, Sa Atma Savigneyaha. So it is Prashantam. Shantam is mind is calm and quiet and everything is still, because there cannot be any disturbance in the totality, because only in the finite things can disturb. From Brahman infinite, there cannot be any perturbation also. So a jnani also, once I am Brahman, there cannot be. Shanti also becomes his nature now. Only when he comes down, the mind can be disturbed, but I am not disturbed. That is the nature of the understanding here. Prashantam, Adyanta Vihinam, Adi Anta Vihinam. There is no beginning for end. That is essentially part of it, and we'll go into more into the details of this in the next talk. With this, we stop here and will continue the nature of Brahman in the following talk. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.